We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Wednesday, just me today. We do have some emails. We have some other news, a lot of strange things going on. A lot of times we'll have guests. A lot of times the whole show will be emails. No guest today. Maybe half the show is emails. So we're kind of going back to our roots. When I first started doing the podcast, it was just me. We didn't have emails, we didn't have guests. And I was made to sit here and talk for an hour, hour and a half, and hopefully try to entertain and inform you. Um, that's a lot harder job than you think. It's easier for me than other people because I'm used to doing it. But even still, when you go through an hour or so and it's just you talking, it can be a little taxing. So taxing that if I'm talking all the time, I'm sucking a lot of air and my stomach will get upset and I won't feel well after the podcast. Not always, just on a rare occasion. But I'm all about preventative medicine. And what I'm doing for preventative medicine today is I'm drinking ginger ale. Now, I don't know if that's still a thing these days, but when I was a young boy, every time my tummy hurt, my grandma Marge would give me ginger ale, and God damn it if it didn't work. It does work actually pretty well. I happen to like ginger ale as well, so here I am, an old man sitting in his living room, but not really sitting in his living room. Again, this is just a green screen background. That's not where I live. And the reason I do that as of late is because my wife will be up and about, and she doesn't want to end up inadvertently on the podcast. I'd love to have her sit down and be on the podcast. She'll never do that. It would be a good show. I would definitely annoy her, and that could be entertaining for you, but she won't be on the show. Anyway, we got some stuff to talk about. One of the things that has been striking me pretty hard lately is just how weird the times are. I was born in 1960. I've experienced different times on this planet that were weird or turbulent or problematic. And we have a lot of problems in the world or in this country today, but there's a lot of weird shit. I mean, weird shit that we've never seen before. I mean, just take a look at the election. We Democrats are upset because the wrong guy or gal got elected. The enemy side, the Republican side. But it's more than that. I mean, here's a guy who's been convicted 34 times, felonies. Here's a guy that's been adjudicated for rape. Here's a guy that's lied and cheated and tore this country up and is trying to upend democracy and is just really a fucking cartoon character. Yet he won the election. It seems impossible to imagine, but that's exactly what we've got. And then we had this assassination in New York City. A young man shot the CEO of United Health, health insurer, shot him down in the street, got away. Everything he did was absolutely meticulous. He got away, got out of the city, got out of the state. But then all of a sudden, he gets caught in a McDonald's, sitting in McDonald's by his lonesome, and he just happens to have of every bit of evidence that they need to convict him of it. A gun, the suppressor, a manifesto. It just seems weird to me that a guy that went through all he did and accomplished as much as he did in this attack, and then it was so simply thwarted, and he was picked up because of a tip off from somebody who worked in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It just seems weird. I'm not going to try to talk about any conspiracy theories and say, oh, he wanted to get caught or this happened or that happened, because the fact of the matter is, I don't know. Nobody knows. A lot of people on TikTok act like they know, but they don't know. Whatever's going on there, we may never know what happened. Will he be indicted? Well, he pled not guilty. He seemed to be caught cold, but he pled not guilty. It'll be interesting to see if all the evidence that's there is enough to put him in jail and keep him in jail and convict him. But in this fucking day and age, I don't know. I mean, there's been plenty of things with the likes of Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump and all Steve Bannon, all these people that should have been convicted and should spend time in jail and don't. We're in a different world. I think we grew up to believe that the Department of Justice and Congress and the federal government was very powerful. Once they wanted to get you, there was no way out. Well, the last 7, 8 years, we found out otherwise. If you have a little money and a little power, you're not going to be accountable. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this kid. And I say kid because he's 26 years old. He's pretty well spoken, pretty well read, pretty well educated. He's a trust fund baby. His family even has some ties to healthcare. So this is really fucking weird. I don't get it. Now, the weirdest thing of all, and this is one I wasn't going to talk about at first because it sounds too much like a conspiracy theory, but obviously it's been proven. It's all these drones showing up in New Jersey. And apparently there's drones showing up all over the world, but that's weird. Anywhere from like 50 to 100 drones showing up at one time or another. But here's the fucking craziest thing. These drones are showing up over New Jersey, over Bedminster, in fact, Donald Trump's golf club there. And when the authorities are asked, what are they? I don't know. Where did they come from? I don't know. Who is behind them? I don't know. Are you telling me the strongest country in the world, the greatest military in the world, and we have hundreds of drones flying, and everybody's just standing there with their mouths agape and their least impressive appendage in their hand going, I don't know what the fuck it is. Isn't that what the government's supposed to be doing? Finding out? I mean, it's not like they made a quick check and then they were gone and we didn't see them again. They're there every fucking night. It's not like you don't have the opportunity to send up a plane or do something. And apparently people are saying, well, we don't know who has jurisdiction. We don't know who's going to pay for it. We don't know who's going to be liable. Really? Are you telling me if another country attacks our country, we're going to have this kind of red tape and bullshit going on? Please, motherfucker. We expect more out of you. And I think that's the most important thing here is whether it be the DOJ and some of the crimes committed in politics or these drones, the people that we've counted on for decades and decades to be strong, to be tough, and to protect us, they haven't done shit. They've been absolute failures. And it's frustrating. It's a little frightening as well. I don't know what's going to happen with these drones, but I got to believe somebody's going to find out something. I've heard these drones were like helicopter drones and some were fixed ring drones, and some people saying they just seeing orbs. I don't know. Are these from another world? Are these from another military? Are this a big drone club that's fucking around and pranking the country? It just seems strange to me that with all this going on and continuing to go on, nobody's had the wherewithal to send something up there to find out what it is. Now, I know some people who have drones have sent drones up to see what it's like, but these drones are bigger than our drones. And that's a question right there. If they're bigger drones than we have, we should find out about them, right? But nobody seems to be in a big hurry to find out about them. Well, we don't know about the liability. Fuck the liability. You've got 100 unidentified drones flying over New Jersey. And why the fuck New Jersey? Why New Jersey? Is it just by virtue of Donald Trump's golf course in Bedminster, or is there something else to it? I don't know. The whole thing seems very, very strange. Everything in this world, everything in this country seems strange. It's like we're in a bizarro world. Things that you would have never thought happened. And the fact that the response from our government has been little or nothing, whether it be the drones or whether it be all the crimes and corruption in Washington, D.C. I've been disappointed. I expected better out of this country, and they have failed us. There's no question about it. All right. I want to say thanks to Jay for joining us yesterday. Jay was a great guest. Young kid, 20 years old. He's going to go to college in Canada. He was afraid I thought he'd be a pussy ass bitch for bolting out of the country. And as I told him, it's a different situation with him. You're a young man. You're starting your life off. You've got to do what you've got to do to start your life off in the best possible way. If that means going to Canada, I get it. Somebody like me who's 64 years old, I'm not going to Canada. My family, everything is here. So I've got no option but to fight. Young man of 20 years of age. He's a very intelligent kid, too. He's a good talker. He's like a lot of guests, like me, talks a lot. And I'd much rather have that problem than the alternative. But it was interesting to get his perspective. I mean, I've talked to younger people on this show, old souls, 20 years younger than I am. Eric's 20 years younger than I am. We've talked to some younger folks, there's no question. This kid is 44 years younger than I am. He's younger than my kids. So it was interesting to get that perspective, and I appreciate him coming on, and no doubt he'll be back on again, whether he's here in the States or in Canada. And I know we have a lot of listeners in Canada, and that offers open to you folks too. If you'd like to come on the show, all you have to do is be a listener. If you're a listener, just send an email to rationalboomer@gmail.com. I'll put you on the show and we'll have a nice conversation. It's very simple. It's very casual. So consider it if you haven't already. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I brought it up in the previous podcast, was my talk with Brian Wallenberg, the Trump humper. As I suspected, there's a lot of people listening to that recording, watching the recording. As I said, I was supposed to be on his show, but he had troubles with Zoom, so I recorded it on my Zoom. And then we got toward the end of it. He just clicked off because he was getting angry, I think. I think he was troubled and frustrated with me. What he was frustrated most with me was I wouldn't let him talk. I kept talking over him. Imagine that. What an asshole I am. And I did that for very specific reasons. It's what I've told you before. As we're going into the next 4 years, we've got to fight fire with fire. This is how they won. They overtalked us. They talked circles around us. They wouldn't shut up, and they wouldn't let us talk. So when I talk to somebody like Brian or another TrumpleFuck, I like to give them a taste of their own medicine because they don't know what to do with it. Their tactic is to try to overtalk me, and I'll be honest with you, I don't have a lot of talents, but you're never going to overtalk me. That's about the only thing I can do. I can talk, and not even so much in quantity or quality. I got quantity fucking down. I can talk forever if I need to. And if that's what it's going to take to shut these motherfuckers down, then, well, I'll do that. So that recording with Brian, that's out there. People have reacted pretty much like I expected. You know, I think it was hard to listen to for a lot of folks, and I knew that would be. It would be hard for me to listen to it again. I was there, so I don't need to listen to it again. But it's kind of cathartic. Certainly was for me to get this off my chest. I've been pretty angry about this whole situation. And, you know, with somebody like Brian, he's kind of a weak ass, pussy ass bitch. So last time I talked to him, the first time I talked to him, I felt a little sorry for him and I pulled back a little bit. Not this time. I'm fucking tired of being a nice guy. Being a nice guy has not worked with these TrumpleFucks. So every chance I get, I'm going to hammer them as hard as I can possibly do it. And yesterday we also had an interesting thing too. We did a TikTok live, but we did it differently. On this TikTok live, I started out by myself, but I had TJ the plumber, who's been on this show before, and Eric, who's from Iowa, who's been on the show a number of times too. And he was with me in the TikTok live. And that was kind of a fun thing. I hadn't done anything like that before. And I figured out how to get it recorded and get it out here on YouTube and on Spotify. And it worked out pretty well. I'd rather have the pictures. We were all just in small pictures. I didn't like the optics of it, but you know, it was the content that it was all about. And I think it went pretty well. So I appreciate you for listening to that. All right, let's get to some emails. Hi, Mike. This is just for you. I'm sorry I lashed out at you in now what she's saying is she doesn't want me to read it on the air, but you know me. I'm going to read it on the air unless she says something crazy. Hi, Mike. This is just for you. I'm sorry I lashed out at you in what I thought was a defense of Old Soul after the election. I was mad, as we all were after the election. I heard genuine fear and hurt in Old Soul's voice, and I just felt you did not get it. But I was wrong to lash out, as I know we are all on the same side. Rational Boomer and most of your guests have kept me sane in a very insane time. We have to stick together to beat the oligarchs and madmen who are trying to rip us apart. I hope you have a happy and safe holiday with your family. The invitation for a burger in Massachusetts as always stands. Best, Gina. And Gina, you don't have to apologize to me. I'm not like some of these people that are in the media or on the internet where people have to agree with everything you say, or people can't debate with you, or they get mad and their ego gets hurt. Listen, man, I've been married 41 years. I have two sons and a granddaughter now. They will all call me out at any given time, and I love them to death. And I love the listeners to death too. If you want to call me out about something, that's fine. The only thing you have to understand is if we're going to debate and it's going to be a little tussle, I am going to fight back a little bit. I'm going to try to be decent and truthful. But you can call me out anytime you want. And maybe I was not sensitive to Old Soul enough. I did ask her after the fact. I said, "Did you feel like I wasn't sensitive enough to you?" And she said, "No, that wasn't a problem." And I think it's because Old Soul and I know each other well enough that she knows my intent. Um, I'm not emotionless, and I can sit and watch a Hallmark movie and cry with the best of them. But when I'm on task and I'm on focus of whatever the issue is, I throw the emotions out. So maybe it does appear that I'm not sensitive enough, but don't mistake that for somebody who doesn't care. I'm just focusing on the problem and what we've got to do to deal with it. And I get frustrated when people come on the show, even Old Soul, and they get a little weepy and a little doomsday-y because that's not helpful in what we have in front of us. Now, if you listen to Old Soul, and hopefully she'll be on tomorrow, she's not like that anymore. She's ready to mix it up. She's very active. She is an activist without question. And she is a strong woman. And as much as people say she's sweet and compassionate, I would not mess with her if I pissed her off because she is a strong and very smart and articulate woman. So, Gina, no apologies necessary. You can fuck with me just like I fuck with you. It's like me and um, Z-Man. People have gotten mad because I ripped into Z-Man. That's just two boys giving each other shit. Now, I know it's different with women, but apparently I'm not aware enough to know the difference. I look at us as all kind of a family here, and I give my family shit and they give me shit. That's just the way it is. Has nothing to do with being angry at anybody. I'm not angry with Gina. In fact, I welcome people calling me out from time to time. Um, it makes it more interesting to respond to. It's nice to have the accolades, but every so often it's nice to say, Mike, you suck, and here's why. At least I can debate that. Or maybe I agree with you. Who the fuck knows? All right, the next one says, "Hi, Mike. Thanks for continuing your daily podcast. It is so needed and appreciated as we approach another 4 years of political insanity. I've stopped watching all cable news to stay sane, and your podcast is calming and easy to listen to. It means so much to so many of us. Sharing this in case it may help someone who has the UHC insurance. I work in digital marketing, and several of my clients are in healthcare, hospitals, surgeons, medical practice, and urgent care. My understanding of the AI that UHC uses for claims reviews is that many of the denials are based on probability of the patient appealing the denial." Okay, that makes sense. AI decides, well, people are more or less likely to appeal this denial, so we'll go with the people who are less likely to deny it. In other words, the AI has identified claim denials that have the lowest percent of appeals as part of its model. For patients who have UHC, here are a few tips to help with their claims approval. Number one, find a doctor who will advocate for you. Many doctors are as burned out and fed up with our healthcare system as we are. Find one who has a good knowledge of how to submit claims that get approved. Ask your doctor how many of your type of treatment plans she has submitted to insurance and what their approval rate is with your insurance company. Number two, make sure you tell your doctor exactly how your illness or temporary disability is negatively impacting your day to day life. Don't assume they know what you're experiencing. Three, if your claim is denied, your doctor can appeal by writing a detailed letter explaining the reasons they are recommending your treatment. Most insurance companies have a form that your doctor will need to complete. You may need to push your doctor to complete this, but it is worth it. Don't accept a denial. That's number four. Appeal and fight. It sucks that you have to fight for something you've paid for, but that's the way our system works right now. SoCal Bev. Well, Bev, that's welcome advice. I think there's a lot of frustrations with the way healthcare is. And the perfect illustration is uh, a CEO of United Healthcare gets shot down in the streets. There's no sympathy, there's no empathy throughout the internet. People are cheering, people are excited. That should be a red flag to the health corporations. I mean, these denials and these problems with healthcare have been going on for just about everybody for decades. This isn't new. And it's funny, the media, the healthcare organizations have not thought, well, with these people, many people complaining, um, maybe we should do something. Now, it wasn't until somebody gets shot down in the street and people will say, look, man, there's better ways to get attention. There's better ways to start the conversation. Really? What would that be? Because for decades, nobody's brought this conversation up. There have been lawsuits or attempted lawsuits, and these billion-dollar corporations drain these people of money and don't give them their help they need. It's unfortunate, but it seems like what happened in New York City with this CEO was a last resort type of thing. And what did it do? It brought it into the conversation. And the funny thing is, everybody has a story about being denied by a health company, a health corporation. Everybody. I have some. I know you have some. This should be a red flag for our government, for our health organization, and for the people in general. If we've all had problems with this, why is it not until now that we're talking about it, that we're hopefully trying to address it? It's because the health corporations were making a ton of money, and as long as nobody's bitching, they're going to keep doing it. Like I told you before, the only tool, the only weapon we have right now is popular opinion. And healthcare is at the top of the news right now. People are talking about it, people are expressing their feelings about it. And that's what it's going to take from us to make change. Whether we'll get the change quickly in terms of healthcare, I don't know. But at least the conversation is being had. And we haven't had this conversation before. They will do what they can do as long as they can do it. The only thing allowing them to do that is our own apathy. We were apathetic with the government. We are apathetic with big corporations. We're apathetic in our healthcare. We've got to be an activist group from here on out. People um, like Old Soul. We got to speak up, speak out, protest, boycott, do whatever the fuck we got to do. But we got to do something. Because if anything is clear, our government representatives aren't going to do jack shit for us. They're too busy getting fed by these large health corporations. And when they get fed or paid under the table, they aren't as willing to do things for us. It's a sad state of affairs in this country. It truly is. Everything that's being exposed is taking us by surprise, from the drones to the assassination to somebody like Donald Trump being elected to healthcare. These are all kinds of problems we dealt with in the past, but they were never in front of our eyes. But now they are. And we have to take this as a signal that maybe it's on us to step up and do something about it. For all too long, for so many years, we've expected the government to do things for us. And what we've learned over the last 4 to 8 years is the government won't do shit for us. Fuck, they don't even know what the drones are, for God's sake. We've got all this money into defense weaponry, and we don't know what 100 drones are and who's sending them up and why. That's fucking crazy. All right, this next one's a short one. It comes from Don from Illinois. Holy cow, I just listened to you schooling young Brian. That was ugly. Good job, Boomer. Don from Illinois. Yeah, I have to be honest. When I accepted the opportunity to talk to Brian, I was going to blow him off because it just didn't seem like it was necessary. But like I said, I needed to get something off my chest. And I thought this was a good example, something I showed last time we talked, and whenever I've talked to any other Trump fuck. When I did this, it wasn't about me schooling him or kicking his ass. That was a foregone conclusion. He's not a bright kid. He's not on the right side of history. He's not very articulate. He's very low key. So for me to walk in there and talk to him and kick his ass, that isn't surprising. That was no great feat. But what I wanted to showcase with him is a level of intellect. You notice the questions I asked. He'd say something and I'd say, well, explain it. And he'd go off on a tangent. I go, no, you got to explain it. And he couldn't do it. What I was trying to show, just the level of incompetence and lack of intelligence these people have. And sad as it may seem, Brian, for as dumb as he sounded, he's pretty representative of what other TrumpleFucks are out there. I know they're smart and wealthy ones. They're just evil. But the rank and file of the people that support and worship Donald Trump are this dumb. And doesn't that trouble you? Doesn't that trouble you that we're being pushed around and pushed back by people this dumb? I got to be honest with you. It fucking makes me angry. I don't like people dumber than me having control over what I do and where I do it. So I want you to understand what we're up against. A lot of times Democrats will hear the things that Donald Trump says or what TrumpleFucks say, and they get terrified as if everything they say is absolutely going to happen. But what you're truly dealing with is ignorant motherfuckers. And when they're that ignorant, they're easy to beat. That's why I have confidence in going head to head with these people. They're not bright. They're incompetent. They're not able to do half the things or three-fourths the things they say. So hopefully listening to that gave you some encouragement and inspiration that we can fight against these fucks because they are in fact stupid. All right, the next email says, well, that was embarrassing with Mr. Wallenberg. He is reflective of many citizens' inability to evaluate and measure what they are told. No wonder Trump loves the uneducated and misinformed. I wager the next Trump sales pitch will be for selling Florida natural waterfront lots, swampland. Speaking of swamps, Trump will clear the DC swamp. It will be replaced by a cesspool. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. He's already started to do that. And it's a little troubling. But again, we can't cry and whine about what's already happened. We got to figure out what we're going to do now, how to nullify them. And as I've said before, we have the ability in the House and the Senate to basically obstruct and block them, much like the Republicans did to us. So we have that working for us. And then we've got to keep the narrative up, keep pointing out their failures, place the blame with them or Donald Trump every time. Keep talking loud and proud and obnoxious. Like I told somebody once, they said, what are you going to do now after the election? I go, well, if I haven't been there already, I'm going to be motherfucking obnoxious, at least with regards to the Republicans. They aren't going to like me anymore. You know, I think Brian thought that having me on the show would be I'd be an easy mark for him because I'd be lost, or we will have lost the election, and I would be on bended knee and say, oh, Brian, you were right. Yeah, sorry, motherfucker. That's not the way it went. And that's not the way it will go with any other TrumpleFuck I run into henceforth. All right. The next one says, bravo, Mike. Love the TrumpleFuck podcast. Love the line that he thought oil came from overseas. His stammering said it all. These dumb fucks will see. Bren from Canada. Yeah, absolutely right, Bren. They will see. And they will try to pass it off as Well, some excuse. Well, we knew that was going to happen. We knew the prices were going to go up. No, you didn't. The whole reason you voted for Donald Trump is because eggs and gas were too high. You heard Brian Wallenberg say that. That's all he had. We won the election. Prices were too high. He had no substantiation. He had no facts or evidence behind him. That's all he knew. So now, when we go into this next term with Donald Trump, when the prices go up, we're going to have to slap them in the face with that shit and ask them every time. You said it would go low. It's now high. What the fuck is going on? Prices are high because of you. We got to keep throwing it in their face because that's the only thing they understand. I mean, a perfect example is when I was talking to Brian. Brian does like to try to overtalk people, but he's a very weak individual. So I knew he wasn't going to be able to do that. But you notice what happened. I'm over talking him. He's saying, well, if you let me talk, fuck you. I'm not going to let you talk. You didn't let us talk for 4 fucking years. So no, I'm not going to let you talk. You're spewing ignorance and wrong information. So no, I'm not going to let you talk. And he got so frustrated at the end that he just clicked off and ran away. Now, I thought he might come back on the email and say, oh, geez, something technical happened. Sorry about that. We'll do that again some other time. No, he didn't even email me. He ran away like a little bitch, like I expected him to. And I suspect I won't hear from him again unless he starts feeling strong about something Donald Trump accomplished. But Donald Trump won't accomplish anything, so I'm sure I won't hear from Brian ever fucking again. All right, next up is Jay of the Canadian Path. Now, Jay is the young man we had on the show yesterday, the 20-year-old Gen Z, very smart kid, very articulate kid. It was a pleasure to have him on the show, and I expect we'll have him back sometime soon. He says, hi, Mike. I've calmed down a lot since my last emails to you, which were sent after Cash Patel was picked. That guy's not going to make it. But I realized the fact that MAGA worms are planning to form rape squads, saying your body, my choice, and messaging people of color to report for enslavement is the real reason I'm upset. Well, that's why I'm Jay of the Canadian Path. I suppose to look at this and say it's my country. Oh, hell no. Uncle Sam can go take a hike. Jay. And we talked about this, and I understand that you're a young man. You've got to figure out what your life's going to be, and you have no way of knowing, and you're troubled by what's going on in this country. I get it. I absolutely get it. Um, and we wish you the best when you go to Canada. Hope you get your college education. Things go well for you. And hopefully things settle down back here and you'll feel more comfortable about coming back. But if not, Canada's a perfectly lovely place too. We've got a lot of folks that listen to the podcast in Canada. I've been to Canada a number of times. I've been to Winnipeg, Toronto, some other smaller cities. Beautiful place, and the people are wonderful. So I can't blame you for wanting to go there. If you can go there, get an education, maybe even get a job at some point, Godspeed to you. All right, the next one says, hi, Mike. I love your show and your logical insight. Sad to see things didn't go the way we wanted, but like you say, we have to stay strong and be loud. I'm a naturalized citizen in the U.S. and concerned about these absurd deportations. Are the banks and credit companies bracing for these deportations? What's going to happen to all these millions of mortgages and credit balances? Will the U.S. government be footing the bill? The level of stupidity is breathtaking. Gustavo from Texas. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, what I've said about Donald Trump, and I will say to Jay too, regarding these fucking knuckleheads that are saying, we're going to start rape squads, your body, my choice. That's not going to happen. I mean, if something like that happened in this country, there'd be a lot of dead Republicans laying in the streets. Because if you think Democrats are going to stand for that, you're fucking crazy. And with regards to the deportations, he will deport some people, and I think Eric has suggested this on the live we did yesterday, or maybe it was TJ, where he says Donald Trump will deport a bunch of people and then proclaim that he's done and he fixed it all and everything's wonderful, and then he'll move on to the next thing. You have to understand when you're hearing from Donald Trump or any TrumpleFucks for that matter, it's more bullshit and bluster than actual facts. They're bullies, so they're trying to scare people. And unfortunately, for a lot of Democrats, um, they're succeeding. They're creating chaos and fear in a lot of folks. And this is what I've told you before. You've got to set that aside. Understand Donald Trump is a pathological liar. He exaggerates everything. The idea that he's going to pull off all the things he says he's going to pull off is absolutely ridiculous. He's never done that in the past. He won't do that in the future. All right. Next up says, Mike, I'm curious if Brian ever had a voice of reason to lean on in his vast years of experience. He is uneducated and easily influenced. I hope he can take your argument to heart. But as you know, you can't argue with stupid, but sometimes you can educate stupid. Never underestimate the power of evil over stupid, because evil is as stupid does. And the orange blabbertard speaks through Brian. Do I think Brian learned anything? No, I don't. I mean, I've known this kid for a long time when he was young. And even when he was a young and a student and people had opportunities to teach him things, he never listened to anything. This is who he is. He thinks he's the authority. And that might explain why he moved to Utah with a Mormon woman, because in that culture, he's the boss, even though he's dumb as fuck. I'd hate to have him lead anybody into anything, because the guy is just a wimp and he's not very smart. He's not very articulate, but clearly he's got some insecurity issues and he likes to be the boss. And unfortunately, when he talked to me, he doesn't get to be the boss. The other thing I wanted to do when I talked to him, you notice when we started it out, it was his show, not my show. I'm there to answer questions, but I thought I'd go pee on his property. You know what I mean? I thought, I'm taking over this motherfucking show and it won't be hard. And I did. And that's why by the time you listened to it, it didn't sound like Brian's show. It sounded like my show. And when it was all said and done, it was my show. Again, it's no great shakes. It wasn't that hard to do. But I wanted to expose. I was a little insulted that after getting his ass whooped the first time, somehow Brian thought he had a shot to take me down. I thought, man, that's stupid. Didn't you learn anything the first time around? And apparently he didn't. So I was a little insulted by that. And I thought I'd give him a taste of what he got last time, just to remind him what the fuck was going on. But these people have short memories. They forgot how bad things were when Donald Trump was president, and Brian forgot what it was like to get his ass kicked by a libtard. So now he remembers. And I'm sure he went away from there being very angry at me. Those libtards, they're always lying. They're doing this. Yeah, but I kicked your ass, you punk ass bitch. Maybe you did learn a lesson, but it won't stick, because there have been so many opportunities to learn lessons and they just can't do it. All right. He goes on to say, I'd like to see mainstream media try to educate TrumpleFucks, not just preach to the choir. I think liberal viewers stop watching news because they can't bear the truth of the coming years, not because they feel duped. Again, he is a psychopath. There is no policy issue that matters after that. He will say whatever he can to get people like Brian to justify their ignorance and apathy. So how do we educate those who don't know and don't care by doing what you just did to Brian? Unfortunately, they're about to learn something after it directly affects them. Ooge. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We tried the angle of educating them with facts, figures, data. Doesn't work. We tried it for the last 4 years. It didn't work. So we take what they did that did work and push it back in their face. And that is be talking loud, blaming, being inflammatory, and just going after them at every chance. And you're right. What I did to Brian is what we need to do to all these TrumpleFucks. I've said this before. If given the chance in 2016 to interview Donald Trump, if I would be allowed to do what I did to Brian, Donald Trump would never have been president ever in his lifetime. But he was never held to account. He was never taken to task. He was allowed to run roughshod because he was a good show, good TV, if you will. And that's where it brings us, where we are now. We let him run wild. We let the brat do whatever he wants, and he grows up and he's a fucking brat. Oh, big surprise. All right. Next one says, "Hey, Mike, I listened to the broadcast with you and Brian today. You should be ashamed of yourself for kicking that puppy. LOL." Yeah, I said that the first time I talked to him. I said, after a while, I felt dirty. I felt sad because I felt like I was kicking a puppy. Um, and that was the first time because I felt some empathy for him because he's so stupid. But I got to tell you, I don't feel that today. I feel revived, revitalized by kicking his ass. In retrospect, I wish I kicked his ass more. I wish he didn't puss out and leave. I wish I had another half hour to kick his ass. I am angry at this point and I have to let it out sometimes. So it is very cathartic to talk to a clown like Brian. Unfortunately, Brian mentality is a reflection of more than half of the population. I would have disagreed with you before, but based on the election, I have to agree. All he did was repeat the same bullshit the Republicans spew. It was so amazing how they forgot COVID-19 and the domino effect it had on the economy worldwide. I feel like vomiting when when I hear them talk about how cheap gas was and them not realizing it was cheap because the country was shut down and the demand wasn't there. Do these dummies realize the president doesn't control prices? Now, I see why scam emails and phone calls are so prevalent. The scammers see the majority of Americans as dumb suckers. Keep doing what you're doing. James, P.S. Is Brian a greeter or a cart man at Walmart? LOL. Well, James, he does work at Walmart. I don't know if he's a greeter or a cart man. I'm thinking he's overnight stocking because they don't want to reveal him to the public. I'm just guessing, but he does work at Walmart, which is ironic because he loves those tariffs. And since 80% of everything Walmart sells comes from China, that's going to put a pinch on Walmart when that happens. All right, the next one says, "Hey, Boomer, just listen to your conversation with Brian. I live in southern Iowa. It sounded like you were talking to most of the people I work with. That was fucking hilarious. That is full on mega. Love your show, Jeff. Thank you." Yeah, I was hoping a lot of people who deal with this kind of clown every day got some relief from seeing one being taken to task. I mean, if you work with these people, you can't start a verbal war with them because you got to do a job. You've got some restrictions because you have a boss. Well, I don't have a motherfucking boss, so I'll do it for you. And anytime a TrumpleFuck wants to come on the show and get an ass whooping, I will be happy to do it. And I'm not saying that I'll whoop everybody's ass because I'm arrogant. It's because they're so easy. They're so stupid. They're so ignorant. They're on the wrong side of history. It isn't hard to beat them if you're willing to do it. A lot of people are afraid of confrontation. Fortunately, I am not. A lot of people have some restrictions hanging over their heads: bosses, wives, family, friends, neighborhoods. They don't want to speak out too much, but they want to and they can't. So I'll be that voice for those folks that can't. And if there is any backlash from it, I don't give a fuck. I really don't care. I know my audience pretty well here on the Rational Boomer podcast, and I know nobody out here that I care about gives a shit what I do in this situation and probably supports me. Those that don't support me or are angry for it, go someplace else. I don't fucking care. All right. Next one says, "Hi, Mike. Thanks for the extra podcast with Brian, the TrumpleFuck. That was a Rational Boomer podcast. There's no way he posted it after you tore him a new asshole. I laughed out loud when he blew off your bet. Of course, it could have been even funnier had he accepted it. Yeah, well, I know he didn't have the money. He works at fucking Walmart, for God's sake, and he probably works part time because he can't put in a full 8 hour shift. He doesn't have the money. I almost felt sorry for him the way you beat him up, but then I remembered who he was and got a warm feeling inside. That's exactly how I felt. It's just so sad these people can't see that what they've done. Hopefully, Congress will be able to stop the Cheeto Banditos' more destructive plans. I turned 70 later this month and I have no offspring, so it's not going to affect me much, but I worry about the innocent victims. Hopefully, we'll survive the next 4 years. I refuse to believe the country I fought for will fail because of a criminal. I'm obviously not a writer. I just start out to thank you for posting an entertaining podcast and quickly took an uncomfortable turn. Anyways, thanks again, Joe, a blue dot in Red, Ohio. Well, call it a guilty pleasure. listening to a TrumpleFuck get his ass kicked. I know it's my guilty pleasure. I'm not proud of it, but that won't stop me from doing it again if need be. All right. This one comes from Roy. He's a regular emailer. Haven't heard from him in a while, though. Hi, Mike. Painful to listen to the podcast which you were on. This guy knows nothing. Hard to argue with this dumb guy for 47 minutes and 34 seconds. All the best, Roy. Well, thanks, Roy. And I understand your discomfort, but I bet you'll listen to the whole fucking thing. See, that's the thing. The last time I talked to a Trumplefuck, it was A-Track Jeff, and it wasn't quite as bad as this last one, but people said it was uncomfortable. I don't like hearing that. I don't want to hear that. They're afraid of the confrontation. And I always thought that was funny that all these people said, yeah, I couldn't listen to the whole thing. I don't know. And it ends up being the most listened to podcast I've ever done. It's okay. You can enjoy it. Don't worry. We're all friends and family here. All right, we've got an international email. And this one I find interesting because this is a place I'd like to go, and I have never been there. Hi, Mike. After months of listening to your absolutely brilliant, entertaining, and informative podcast, I like this woman already. I decided to introduce myself. I'm a Gen X woman, and I live in a small farm in County Cork, Ireland. And I'm truly hooked on American politics and don't miss any of your podcasts. I look forward to listening to them every day. Well, thank you very much. Truthfully, I can't believe you are not of Irish descent, Mike, because you talk like an Irish person. We are very forthright. We don't hold back saying whatever is on our mind, and bad language is part of our culture. I know that about Irish folks. I think I'm pretty diverse. I had a follower who happened to be a young black man one time and say he liked me because I swore like a brother. And your comparison to Irish people, yeah, I can see that. I've always appreciated that in the Irish. A lot of people are put off by that, but fuck them. Anyway, it goes on to say, I would like to think we are generally very pragmatic and honest people who don't suffer fools. And ye have them by the bucket loads in America. I don't mean that about all of America. I'm talking about the absolute complete idiots who voted for Trump. It's actually mind blowing. There are fools here in Ireland too, but thankfully they don't vote. I can honestly say I was disappointed as ye were. Ye, that's a word Irish folks use. We don't use ye here, but that's cool. I maybe start using that henceforth. Just disappointed as ye were by the outcome. I just couldn't believe it. I felt sick for ye all and just sorry ye will have to endure another 4 years of that clown. Even though we are a tiny nation, we have a huge connection in so many ways with America. Historically and currently, a little piece of history for you. Three of the signatories in the 1776 Declaration of Independence were Irish born: James Smith, George Taylor, and Matthew Thornton. Did not know that. You always learn something on the Rational Boomer podcast. Chances are you're going to learn it from an emailer or a guest. We had our own election here on the 29th of November. It's called a general election. There is none of the hype like America. It's actually boring in comparison, but I suppose boring is safe. Voting is on one day only, and the campaign lasted 3 weeks at the cost of 10 million euros. A very, very different procedure to your system. A preferable system to our system, too. We should do the same thing. Sorry for the long-winded email, but truthfully, we have the gift of gab over here and would fit in very well. I want to finish by thanking you for making me laugh out loud nearly every day. I actually had to put my hands over my ears when the Trumper Brian was on yesterday. It was so cringe. You certainly kicked his ass. I love listening to Will. Also, he must definitely have Irish blood. You have a wonderful gift, and the best bit is I know it's just you being you. And that is what makes it perfect. Well, thank you. It is, sadly, it is just me. There is no show here. This is how I talk. You can ask my wife, much to her chagrin. It's funny. whenever my family's around and the TrumpleFuck says even the slightest thing, you can all see their faces drop and go, oh, fuck, here we go. Unless my wife's already given me a heads up and said, don't you talk about politics. I said, well, what if they come after me? I'm not going to stand there and take it. That's not in my fucking nature. Yes, you will. You'll just stand there and take it. We're not going to ruin friendships or family. All right. How about if I just don't come? No, you're coming and you're going to do what I tell you. And having been married 41 years, I wouldn't have been married 41 years if I didn't take some direction now and again. I will be honest with you. The only person I do take direction from is my wife. I don't know why, but that's true. Anyway, she finishes up by saying, I would like to wish you and all of your listeners a very, very happy Christmas and a wonderful new year. And if you're ever in Ireland, Mike, you would be very welcome here for a cup of tea. Kind regards, Finola. Well, Finola, I would love to come to Ireland. My wife and I have talked about it. And if I can get away or a time to come to Ireland, I will make a point to go to County Cork and stand on the street corner and start yelling your name, Finola, and see if we can't connect up. All right. The next one says, "Hey Boomer, thanks you for your show and to know there are actual Americans who believe in democracy and friendly borders. I've kept my mouth shut as I am from and live in a small town near Ottawa. I have been quiet as I do not have a vote, so apparently I have no skin in the game. But what the actual fuck is going on down there? Things are already getting out of hand. I thought there was only one president at a time, as Obama rightly warned Trump in 2016. But today, the orange turd is setting policy with many foreign leaders, threatening and pushing his narcissistic driven, retarded. Ooh, I can't let my wife hear that. I can't say that word. That's one of the bad words. The R word and the C word. That's a no-go zone here. Anyway, threats around like farts in a mitt. You know, as soon as you try and hold on to one, it's gone, only to appear again when his peanut brain comes up to replay. Right now, he's loosely threatening Canada to be annexed by the U.S. as the U.S. 51st state, claiming our prime minister as the U.S. governor of Canada. And no one is saying shit. All is quiet. Either no one wants to upset Donnie or there is some backdoor stuff being prepared for January 20th. I hear people saying that something's going to happen before January 20th. And honestly, I hope to God there is. I just don't have a lot of confidence in the Democrats or the DOJ to actually do anything. Every time they've had an opportunity to do that, they haven't done a fucking thing. So I'm hoping something happens, but I'm not jumping on that bandwagon at this point. Maybe Trump Tard should look up what happened on August 24th, 1814 in Washington, but that date is probably buried as an embarrassment. Out of respect, I've been quiet as I didn't have skin in the game, but it's obvious I do now. Side note to be aware of, in the summer, we see a few American plates as the tourists come north for the holidays. But since the election, I have noticed several U.S. plates from places we don't normally see here. This is not a tourist season, so this is very abnormal. Just something we should all be aware of. Bill, human being, living the human experience. All right, the next one says, "Hi, Mike. Congratulations on your strong performance on Brian's podcast. He clearly just repeats unfounded statements from Republicans' media machines. What do you think Trump meant when he said we won't need to vote again this election? How will he implement this plan? Regards, Judy, Australia." Honestly, you can't take Donald Trump as his words because he just says shit. He pulls stuff out of his ass. When he said that, he was just trying to one up what he was saying before. He has no plan or strategy. He never does. I think people read too much into that. That was just him talking out his ass. Um, yeah, if you vote now, I'll fix everything. You'll never have to vote again. That's or he was saying you never have to vote again because I won't be up for reelection. After that, I don't give a fuck what you do. And that was probably more like what he was meaning by that. All right, Mike, I just watched the podcast with Gen ZJ and I thought I'd comment regarding DJT and what helped mold him into the awful excuse he is for a human being. Mary Trump is the daughter of Fred Trump, the oldest of the Trump children from DJT's family. I recently read her book, Who Could Ever Love You, which gives great insight into the family dynamics. Fred was supposed to be the family dynasty heir. However, he fell in love with flying and secured a job with American Airlines. He was not interested in the family business, and that infuriated Fred Sr. Fred told his son that he was no better than a bus driver and continued to deride him any way he could. Fred disapproved of everything Fred Jr. accomplished, and he and his wife, Mary, disapproved of his marriage, and they were allowed a substandard apartment in one of the buildings Fred Sr. owned, and his father's constant negativity is what helped fuel his alcoholism. Dad made it clear to everyone that Jr. was a total disappointment, and in his eyes, an abject failure. Fred Jr. and his family were treated like second class citizens. That's when he decided to focus his energy on Donald. Donald, being lazy and not too bright, constantly could not please his father, and that helped develop his need for attention and to tell everyone he's the best. The, the book is a great view of the family dynamics from Mary's point of view. Her first book, Too Much and Never Enough, tells much more about how the relationship between Donald and his father shaped their family. I believe they're both worthwhile in having an understanding of his mentality and how he approaches life, why he has no compassion for anyone. I love that you have a diverse group of people on your show. It provides your listeners different viewpoints from people of all age groups and experiences. I have as many I have as many stopped listening to major media news outlets and have canceled cable, opting for streaming services, and enjoy watching your podcast on YouTube. It's nice to see the faces with the voices I've been listening to on Spotify. Thanks as always, Judy, Crazy Cat Mom in Portland, Oregon. All right, next one. I can tell this one comes from Garage Door Jeff. Hi, Boomer. With Old Soul shows, I've always waited for two boxes to get checked. Her observations about MaglaFucks being pissed because they actually know how bad it is going to be checked the always unique perspective box. Then when she said your new health plan would provide you with an eye patch and a parrot on your shoulder, that checked the laugh my ass off box. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Boomer, in my career, I operated in a very testosterone centric high tech sales environment. We were actually encouraged to be cynical pricks in our situation assessment and sales strategies. Think Alec Baldwin in the magnificent Glenn Ross scene. Now, if I put that old hat on and put myself as a Republican strategist in the planning room, this is what I'm going to say right now. We won, boys. It's over. Remember when 30 years ago we started training these fucks to only respond to social issues, red meat? It worked. Our job is done. Look who they just reelected. We can do any fucking thing we want. Social Security, martial law, whatever. Sky's the limit. So let's just go over to the Ritz-Carlton, have martinis and those really nice shrimp cocktails and relax. They're all fucked. That's what I'd be saying, Boom. And he may be incompetent, but not everyone around him is. It's going to be wild. I'm honestly not sure what could happen. Best, Garage Door Jeff. P.S. Let's make our next cheeseburger bet and over under on how long that malignant fuck will last in office. Let's say 1 year. You can take either position. Just knowing how things go in DC, I would say over. I would say over. Wouldn't be surprised if it went under. And if it went under, I'd be happy to buy as many cheeseburgers as needed. So I'll take over just in a betting vein, but I'm hoping you're right. All right. The next one says, hey, Mike, enjoyed your show with Jay, but he was wrong about our government parties here in Canada. The Conservative Party is not like your Democrats. They're more like MAGA. The party more like your Dems is the Liberal Party. Hopefully, this whole nightmare will be over soon. Thanks, Mike. Listen to you every day. Terry. Thank you, Terry. Last email says, "Hi, Mike, Gen X, Blue Dot, and Red Ohio here. Oh my God, I'm listening to you with the opposition extra. You were masterful." He is stuttering, wailing, crying, backtracking, repeating all the Fox News talking points. How embarrassing for him. He didn't even know the current events from Trump's interview. An absolute ass whooping. We need more of this against the right wing talking heads. Fuck around and find out for sure. Great job, Rodney. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is what we need. And like I say, not my proudest moment to do this. Had I done any less against Brian, I would have been a failure. This was just too easy. It was too simple. It wasn't going to be a problem in the first place. I wasn't worried about it all. I didn't prepare for it all because I knew he wouldn't prepare. And based on both of us not preparing, I know more than that motherfucker. So you see, he's real excited about being uh, a radio show host. You have to understand, I worked at a radio station on the professional side, but there was a teaching side, actually, where I got my education in broadcasting. He was a student while I was there working. I never interacted with him a lot, but I saw that he was kind of a little wimpy kid that didn't have a lot of talent. He's one of the few people that went through the course and never was able to get a job in radio after he left. I did. Most of the people I know did at some point. Not everybody stayed in radio because they were bright and realized there's no fucking money in it. But Brian couldn't even get a job coming out of there, mainly because he wouldn't listen, because he was weak, he was wimpy, he wasn't very articulate, and clearly not very bright. So he starts a podcast, and now he thinks he's a talk show host. Clearly, he's not. He's not a fucking talk show host. I wanted to bring one other thing up before we wrap this Rational Boomer podcast up. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office suggested several ways the judge overseeing Trump's hush money trial could uphold the 34 count guilty verdict against the president elect while respecting the immunity he receives as president. See, this is it. When Donald Trump won the presidency, we saw a lot of criminal trials and such getting dismissed or delayed or whatever was going to happen with him. He seemingly slipped out from underneath all these things. But we have the situation in the Manhattan district. That trial was completed. Donald Trump was convicted of 34 felonies. So you can't just say, oh, fuck the jury, fuck the whole process, fuck the money put into this. We'll just have Donnie get a gimme on this and slap him on the wrist and say, don't do it again. Well, that can't happen. And Donald Trump went to Alvin Bragg and said, well, you should just dismiss the whole thing because I'm president now. And Alvin Bragg said, the fuck you say? Now, while Trump was convicted in May, his sentencing hearing was supposed to be last month, the month before, and this month, but it's been delayed. And this is largely due to the Supreme Court ruling on immunity. Prosecutors floated several possible courses of action for New York State Supreme Court Judge Juan Marchand in a court filing Tuesday, including freezing the case while Trump serves as president and taking jail time off the table. The district attorney's office argued vehemently that Marchand should disregard Trump team request to toss the case immediately. There are no grounds for such relief prior to defendant's inauguration because president-elect immunity does not exist. They wrote, going on to point out that there are still several weeks before Trump takes the oath of office and becomes immune from prosecution. They also said that the Supreme Court ruling, which gave President broad immunity for official acts, does not apply to the facts of the hush money case, which all involve purely personal and unofficial conduct. Marchand has yet to rule on Trump's early motion to dismiss the case on presidential immunity grounds. Of course, it centered on the $130,000 hush money he paid to Stormy Daniels, all of which that happened before he was president. Now, if Marchand does not sentence Trump before his inauguration, prosecutors suggest pausing the proceedings for the duration of Trump's term, picking them back up in 2029. Or, as Garage Door Jeff and I think, he's going to be out of there before then. So it doesn't have to be 2029. It could be 2026 if they boot him out of there before then. They also made a suggestion in event Marchand agrees with Trump's attorney that pressing pause would still interfere with his ability to serve as president because he would have the threat of imprisonment hanging over his head the entire time. Marchand could close the case with a notation saying the jury verdict removed the presumption of imminent innocence, that defendant was never sentenced, and that his conviction was neither affirmed nor reversed on appeal because of presidential immunity. They noted that it's a move some judges make when a defendant dies in the time between their conviction and sentencing. And that's certainly something that could possibly happen too. He's 78 years old, not in the best health. He could keel over. Hopefully that doesn't happen. That may be the best thing that could ever happen. Just have him keel over and cart it away and then try to rebuild from that point. We don't know what's going to happen. But the fact of the matter is, these convictions should stand. You can't say, well, the jury said he's guilty, but we're just going to dismiss it anyway. How do you do that? Sure, he may have some immunity or untouchable while he's president, but he could be out on his ass after a year. He should be accountable. People keep telling us no one's above the law. Well, I disagree. To me, it sounds like a president elect, a former president, and a sitting president is always above the law. And that is troubling. If you're going to make that statement, make it true, because you're fucking lying to us at this point. So we'll see what happened with Marchand. He's got to come up with some kind of announcement sometime between now and January 20th. We'll see what he does. I have a feeling they'll maybe just freeze it and get to the sentencing after he's out of office, whether it's a year from now or 4 years from now. All right, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.